Sandra, welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So how are you doing? So tonight I've got a movie review for you, and it's Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. So if you don't like spoilers, please do not watch this video because I am going to spoil the movie for you. So I haven't seen the rest of the Bridget Jones series. So if you are a person who is looking to, find someone who's seen the series, that isn't going to happen because I'm not your person. But I can say it does mention asexuality in this movie. So that's why I want to talk to you about it. So in the movie, we come into the movie that Bridget Jones has lost her husband. He's been dead for 4 years. She's now a widow. She's got 2 children that she's having to manage on her own. And her friends are basically saying to her, like, what's happening with dating and finding someone for a relationship? Are you still single? Blah, blah, blah. And in this movie, I thought it portrayed really well the fact that people's advice is never usually the same. People give you all sorts of different advice about what to do with your life when you're in that situation. It's very similar to any situation we're in life. It's the fact that we get so many different opinions from different people. By the end of it, we don't know where we're coming or going. It's like, stay single. No, find a relationship, get laid. No, don't just dive back into a relationship because or sex because it's on the rebound. It's not going to feel very good. Go out and do this, do your hobbies, do your interests. No, plow your time and energy in with your kids and spend more quality time with them, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of kind of discrepancies between what people say, and I thought the movie captured that really well. So in this movie, because her friends are saying to her, like, why haven't you got a boyfriend? Basically, why aren't you dating? She feels guilty because of her husband. She loved her husband very much, and she feels guilty about seeing anyone else. And one thing I really hated about this movie, which was very poor representation of asexuality. And towards the beginning of the movie, people are asking her, like, why doesn't she get laid? Why doesn't she find a boyfriend? Blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'm completely asexual. She's like, no, I'm completely asexual. And this is a complete lie. She is not asexual at all. It's not that she lacks sexual attraction and doesn't experience sexual attraction. It's a fact that she feels guilty about being with anyone else sexually when her husband's died, and she's still grieving the loss of her husband. This is a movie that centers around grief. And that is not asexuality. Asexuality is a sexual orientation where you lack sexual attraction. You don't get the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse. That's what asexuality is. Asexuality is not someone grieving for a love that's been lost and that's buried in sorrow and guilt and turmoil because they can't see themselves with anyone else. That's not asexuality. That's basically, like I said, grief. It's being dedicated to your deceased beloved. It's basically an emotional turmoil. It's got nothing to do with asexuality whatsoever. So one, I thought was good they even mentioned the word asexual, or saying I'm completely asexual. But two, I absolutely hated it because that's not what asexuality is. And using it as just a very casual term to brush off people who don't have your best interests at heart because they're trying to encourage you to get laid and get a partner, is a completely wrong use of the word asexual. And I get that some people might actually say that type of thing in real life. That's the thing that's horrible, is I could actually see some people not understanding asexuality and actually saying something stupid like that that's totally uncalled for, right? But I get that. It's not asexuality. Asexuality is not the same as grieving for someone and therefore you don't want sex. Asexuality is not about not wanting sex for whatever reason. It's about a lack of sexual attraction, which in turn may mean you don't want sex because you lack the sexual attraction. but the fact is it's based on a lack of sexual attraction, right? And so in this movie, Bridget Jones ends up being set up on a Tinder app, and it says something like, I'm trying to think what it said. Tragic widow seeks sexual awakening. And this guy called Rockstar, who like does garden maintenance, as far as I can remember, he basically sees her up a tree with the kids and he helps her down. And then he sees her Tinder profile on her phone. And then he's seen the fact it says about sexual awakening. And this is like one of her, I think it was one of her friends put it on there and set it up for her dating site on Tinder. Well, as you know, Tinder's hookup culture, right? And so, yeah, she didn't write that title, but obviously that means in her profile looks like she's looking for sex. And anyway, this guy in the movie ends up dating her. And obviously she's meant to be a lot older than him. And in the movie, he says, oh, she's asking how old he is, basically. And he's like, oh, I'm 28. No, I'm joking. I'm 29. Right. In real life, he is 28. The actor who plays him, and she is 55 in real life. So this means there's a 27-year age gap. Now, as I like younger guys, and I'm an older girl, I am not above 50. I'm below 50, just to make that perfectly clear. But as I like younger guys, I do like the fact that lately there's been a few more films come out with an older woman, younger guy storyline. But the problem is they're always doing along the lines of a sexual awakening. Like they're getting such good sex from the guy and it wakens them up to themselves. And I don't like that narrative. It's like, why can there not be more films where an older woman ends up with a younger guy and it actually works out really well? Because in real life, some of those relationships do work out very, very well. As an asexual person who likes younger guys, it's really difficult because I'm not interested in sex. I don't want sex with a younger guy. I just want a serious committed relationship with one, But there are people in real life, because I watch a lot of YouTube videos about age gap love, and there are guys who like older women and they stay and they get married to them and all sorts of stuff, and it's a really good in real life. So I want to see that portrayed more in the movies. I want to see an older woman and younger guy work out together in a healthy way, not just I'm so attracted to you physically way. This guy was good looking for a British guy. He's a British actor, actually. So anyway, I did like the fact that in the movie, she did change her look. She changed her clothes to become much more younger. I liked all the scenes where they were together holding hands and where it seemed very natural and normal, where they were laughing together, joking together, when they were really passionately kissing. I loved all that, right? All that I thought was really good. I thought, thank God they're showing that a younger guy can go for an older woman and how the woman would usually act around a younger guy, because he makes her younger in that sense. I mean, I'm already really young, so I'm actually the energetic one more than the younger guy usually, right? I have more energy than younger guys because I reprogrammed my mind to be like 21 years old using NLP years ago and I live a teenager lifestyle. So that is me, right? But not everyone's like that. And you see Bridget Jones transform in the movie. And I actually really liked her like that. I liked the zest she had then. I like the fact she, like I said, she was wearing younger clothes. I love how the character transformed. But the problem is, which is true to life to a certain extent, is but it doesn't always happen. The younger guy, he basically, he's late for showing up for a birthday party that Bridget goes to. And when she gets there, everyone's asking where her boyfriend is. And then he does actually show up and he rescues a pet. One of the women there in the birthday party has this pet and it goes and dives into the water. So he goes and rescues it and he comes out with his shirt wet and everyone's like, oh, who's that? Right. And then he passionately kisses Bridget. I mean, a lot in front of everyone, right? A lot. And this is true to life. You know, younger guys do snog older women a lot in public, right? And therefore, they can't exactly go around saying, I don't like older women or get embarrassed by it because they've just kissed in front of like loads of people, right? So clearly, they're not afraid of kissing older women. And so, in the end, like he keeps going back to her home. She has him stay over there, and the kids get really used to him, and they think he's her next. Like, for example, the daughter of Bridget, she thinks he is her daddy, so her new daddy. So he basically that's what she calls it. And he does get on really well with the kids in the movie, and it all seems very natural, you know. And in the movie, though, you do see like basically Bridget's meant to have a sexual awakening. Luckily, they didn't show that much of the sex scene, so it's kind of implied they had sex, and you see some of it, but you don't see like genitalia, thank God, because I'm not interested in looking at sex. So I was a bit worried that it was going to have a lot of sexual content in it, but thank God it didn't. It's a 15. And I was thinking, oh my God, should I be watching this? Because it has got some sexual stuff. I mean, for example, Bridget's one of Bridget's previous partners, Daniel, I think it is, he is still talking sexually to her, even though they're not together in a relationship. He babysits her children, which you could say is very questionable, right? And he's still going around pinching women's bums, which is very, very old school and quite sexist in a way, you know? So, yeah, I don't think that's brilliant. But anyway, so to get back to Bridget, so when after this birthday party, the young guy sleeps with her again in her home, and then he leaves without saying goodbye to her, and then he ghosts her in message, right? So this is true to life a lot of the time, but it doesn't always happen. So he ghosts her, and then she keeps messaging him, and then eventually she gives up. And so she decides basically that's it, because he's not coming back. And so she gets on with her life. She goes to be like a TV producer, and that's like back to work for her. And she's, you know, doing really well at it. And he shows up after ghosting her. He then shows up saying, I'm really sorry. I do love you. I want to be with you. And it, you know, I just got cold feet and got overwhelmed basically, but I'm ready to commit. And before he ghosted her, like the day before, he goes, I wish I had a time machine, which means he wishes he could go back in time so that we're like the same age type of thing. But it's weird when he said time. Well, for him, the time machine would be going forward. But so when he turns up at her work, which I thought is very reflective of real life, and after he ghosted her and she hadn't heard from him for like a long time, and he said he's ready for a relationship, she then said, I wish I had a time machine. And so, but you know, you're not going to be the one for me. And I think that's important, because if a young guy doesn't know what he wants, then he shouldn't be with an older woman. You know, he needs to know what he wants, and he can't mess an older woman around, which is good that Bridget portrayed that, because that's kind of the difference between an older woman. A younger girl might be more persuaded with something, but an older girl, she's like, well, I know, she's like, what, she knows what she wants. And if the guy is too scared or overwhelmed, or he wants to kind of run off, or he's unsure, an older woman's not going to stick around. She's just going to get fed up with it and go, well, if you're unsure, that's fine, but I'm moving on with my life, because she's got her life of her own. And I think it's good that Bridget has got a life of her own in this movie. So that's where it ends, you know, like with them two. And then you see another storyline where Bridget actually likes the science teacher of who, you know, of her son. So it's her son's science teacher, and she goes on like an expedition with him and students, and she becomes very fond of it. And he, in the end, I'm going to spoil it, so if you don't like spoilers, don't watch this bit. In the end, basically, he admits he loves her, but he says it in a logical way, because he's about logic and mathematical stuff, and very kind of like, you know, I don't know how to put it. He doesn't talk like a young guy would, obviously, and he's older. He's meant to be around her age, I think. And it's a person of color, so I was really glad about that British actor, person of color. So I liked that fact. They put her with him, and You did get to see him with his top off, so he's basically got a nice physique for an older guy. That's what they're showing. And they get together in a relationship in the end, and she's happy. But the thing is the thing I don't like about this is when she's with the older guy, she then goes back to being an older self, if you know what I mean. Now, if that's her true self, fair enough. But for me, you know, like because I like younger guys and because I'm really energetic, I would like the younger, passionate, younger guy, you know, kissing and all that lot. But it's no good if the guy isn't committed, doesn't know what he wants and is unsure. But by the same token, I don't like, you know, the idea of being with the older guy like that. Yeah, she seems content and happy, but it's like at the end, I didn't even know whether they were together or not for a while, because it was like she had her friends around and he was in the same room playing the piano. And they weren't actually, you know, singing like the New Year in, but she wasn't singing with the New Year in specifically with him by her side. He was over the other side of the room, and I didn't like that. I thought that was a really bad, you know, ending. Really, like she puts her in the very, very end. She puts like her arms around him, but it's like, where's the romance? Where's the kissing? Where's the passion? Just because you're older doesn't mean to say you can't do that. It really pees me off when they portray it like that. But I do think that's reflective of life quite a lot of the time, that older people in relationships tend to like not be as passionately kissing and that. It more tends to be like a deep friendship. Friendship is really good, don't get me wrong, but it tends to be like, you know, a lot of like, you know, like contentment, but without the excitement and passion stuff. And I think you can have both. I mean, obviously, if you're asexual who's not into romance, then that's great, because that's what you will be comfortable with and happy with. But from a romantic point of view, I don't like it when stereotypes seem to keep showing up in life and even in the real world, where people are a certain age and then they don't be that romantic. And to me, it's just boring. It's like, where's the kissing? Where's the cuddling? Where's the physical affection? I mean, one of my love languages is physical touch. So even though I'm asexual, there is a website you can go on called lovelanguages.com, and you can find out your love language. And my top love language is quality time, and then it's joint physical touch with affirmations, you know, words of affirmations. And so for me, it's important that I have physical touch in a nice way as an asexual, like kissing and cuddling and holding hands. To me, it's very, very important. And I don't like the idea of when you get older, you've got to be a certain way. I hate that. Even in other aspects of my life, I don't like that. Like, for example, when I was at my parents' for Christmas, I'll buy them like loads of presents. I think I got them 16 presents each for Christmas, like 32 presents between them. Why? Because I like buying gifts to my parents. I believe that it's not good to comply with society's conventions and norms. It's good to change those things. So theoretically, when you get older, you're supposed to have less presents. And I'm like, why? Who made that bloody rule up? Excuse my language. Who made it up? Who? Oh, when you get older, you have less presents. Why? Why should that be the case? It's pathetic, to be quite honest, in my personal opinion. So I'm like, no. If they so what? My parents are older than they were years ago. They still deserve lots of presents, and I love it. So I give them lots of presents. Do you know what I mean? And take time and care over what I choose them, because I don't like society's norms and conventions. It's like, why? When you get older, you've got to be a certain way, look a certain way. I actually preferred the way she looked in the movie with the younger guy. That younger guy clearly wasn't right for her because he didn't know what the F he wanted in the end, and he ghosted her, and he's not dependable or reliable. But there are younger guys that are dependable and reliable. And and when she went, you know, when she wasn't with him anymore, I don't think she might have looked more content, if you like, but I wouldn't say she looked really, really happy. And so it's more like she looked like she was settling for someone her age, but it was a more tender love, I guess, in theory. But it's like, why is it when people get to a certain age, it's supposed to be like, oh, you behave this way? I just don't agree with it. I think you should behave how you want to behave, with, you know, obviously not doing any harm to people, but I think you should, you know, be passionate and doing dates and kissing and cuddling as much as you want, just like when you were like 20, whether regardless of where you're 20, 25, 30, whatever age you are, 40, 50. You know, I just think you should live your life your way. And I like to see Bridget when she was with the younger guy. I think she did the right thing by when he ghosted her and came back into her life, she basically politely told him to stick it. But I think that was essential because Bridget is a strong female character, and I think that's really good. But there wasn't, for me, enough chemistry between her and the guy who's more like her age. It was more of an endearing contentment with him from sharing his company, but I wouldn't say it was like this amazing attraction. I don't know if I don't know if I don't know if I even felt there was actual attraction there as much as a contentment. I think from an asexual point of view, that probably would be a good relationship if you're not interested in romance. But from the point of view of an actual relationship, I didn't think the chemistry was very much there between the actor and actress. Do you know what I mean? It's more like they're friends. Whereas actually I thought Bridget Jones and the young guy, Rockstar, I thought the actor and actress of them, I just thought they have got really good chemistry together. I actually really loved her with him. I thought she had better chemistry with the younger guy than she did with the older guy, yet she ended up settling down with the older guy at the end. And there's nothing wrong with settling down, but I don't think there was enough chemistry between them two. They hadn't really worked on enough romance between them or enough even attraction that much between them. But it's just like I think the contrast between the younger guy and the older guy was too much, if you know what I mean. It was like the younger guy, there's a lot of physical attraction there, there's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of her being young, her younger self version. And then when she gets with the older guy, it's almost like there's not much chemistry there. It's more of a contentment of friends, and it's more like, oh, I've settled down and I'm just settling in with some snuggly slippers, but I'm not really doing much with the slippers. I don't know how to describe it. But for me personally, I thought she was better with the younger guy. And part of me in the movie, I felt like I wished the younger guy would come back and she actually would be with him. Like in the end, when he said, I'm really ready to be with you, part of me did think, oh, I wish that she decided she did want to be with the younger guy after all. I don't, but obviously she did the right thing in terms of the fact he ghosted her, telling him to stick it, basically. But part of me did still want her to get back with the younger guy after he'd realized his mistake. And obviously it wasn't going to be secure enough relationship for her. But part of me did. Part of me felt like, you know, the guy was going to show up one more time or something at the end, or she was going to actually realize that, yes, he's young, he's naive, and he was scared, but her kids got on well with him. She really liked him. She got on really well with him. And actually, she decided to meet up with him again. And this time he was different. He wasn't just physical. He was romantic, kind and caring. And he was thinking more about long-term stuff with her. That's just the way I felt, really. But the representation of asexuality is really poor. Asexuality is not a grieving widow, which that is what Bridget Jones is. And she just doesn't want to have sex because she was married to a husband she adored and loved implicitly. And so she didn't have sex because she wasn't looking for another guy. She was still hooked on her husband. But in part way through the movie, she visualizes her dad talking on his deathbed saying you need to live to her. So that's why she decides to go out with Rockstar. And I thought I did think they portrayed a lot of that really well. And I did like the fact that he was like dancing with her outdoors, and I did like the fact he was like kissing her in front of everyone, and he, you know, that it was very natural. I actually, like I said, think she had much more chemistry with him than she did with the other guy. And I do think chemistry is important. It's not the be all and end all, but I do think you've got to have a certain amount of chemistry, even if it's asexual chemistry. You know, but that might be because I'm romantic. I'm hyper romantic. So if you're a non-romantic asexual, you might love their dynamic. Her Bridget's with the older guy, you know? So I think you've got to weigh up what you like and don't like about the movie. But I really think it's such a bad portrayal of asexuality, because she's not asexual. She's 100% not asexual. She just hasn't had sex for 4 years because her husband died and she's still grieving. I've said it once and I'll say it again. That is not asexuality. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that's the lack of sexual attraction. This means basically someone doesn't look at someone else and go, oh, I want sex with them. It just doesn't work that way. Although asexuality is a spectrum of identities. But if we're talking about pure asexuals, not experiencing any sexual attraction whatsoever, then that's what it's like. And she just hasn't had sex because she hasn't been looking for a guy to do that with or put herself in a position to do that. So, yeah, it's a very good movie, I felt, in terms of the storyline's very interesting. I think it's good that she has got a younger guy in the movie. And like I said, I think it's amazing that there's more movies coming out now with older women with younger guys. And that age difference is true in real life. They're very much vastly different ages. But having said that, I think there needs to be more portrayal of healthy relationships between an older woman and younger guy. I think there should be more movies where either the older woman or the younger guy or both really haven't got on well being in a relationship or relationships with the same age group as them, and they really just struggle and it's not been good. They've had such a horrendous time, and then when they meet each other they finally realize that they need the age gap, because it's the age gap that actually makes them come together, because the two complement each other. And the younger guy thinks, I want an older woman because I'm fed up of being messed around with younger girls who don't know what they want. And the younger woman thinks, I'm fed up with older guys that have a baggage, that keep having all this stuff. They have so much preconceived ideas. And a younger guy's a lot more physically fit and energetic and better for that person. And also they bring like a new fresh perspective to the table. And then a guy thinks the older woman is more wise and he can learn from her and grow from her and with her. This type of stuff. I'd like to see more movies like that. I'm fed up with just seeing movies where it's just the guy is basically using the older woman for sex or vice versa. There's another movie out and it's got Nicole Kidman in it and she's with the younger guy. But again, it's a sexual awakening thing, but there's BDSM stuff in that apparently. So I wanted to see that movie from the point of view of the dynamic of the older woman with younger guy, because I'm an older girl who does like younger guys. I do like to see movies like that to see how they've portrayed it and compare that to my real life experience. But I hate BDSM stuff, so I don't think I could sit through it and watch it. I don't like sex as it is, and I've read up about it and seen the trailers, but I just I don't think so. I'm trying to find out what it's called now. Is it called Gone Baby or something? I don't know what it's called. She's in a very recent movie. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh, Baby Girl, that's what it's called. I've watched quite a few like interviews with Nicole Kidman and Baby Girl. But like I said, it's got BDSM in, so I haven't watched that because I'm really sex repulsed asexual. So yeah, for some reason tonight I can't see chat, just to let you know. And I want there to be more positive movies with younger guys and older women, because it's the 21st century and we should be having more of these types of relationships on screen, but ones that are healthy between these dynamics, not ones where it's just sex basically. It's not good. So I hope they change that, and I hope to God they stop portraying asexuality wrong. Asexuality is not about grieving for someone else and therefore not having sex. Asexuality is not about not going on dating sites, so therefore you haven't had sex, so you're asexual. That's not asexuality. Asexuality is not, I haven't had sex for X amount of months or weeks or years. That's not asexuality. Asexuality is not the same as not having sex, refraining from having sex, abstaining from having sex. not having sex for whatever reason, that is not asexuality. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on a lack of sexual attraction. It's important you understand that. And it makes me infuriated when I see movies that portray asexuality as basically something where you're just not having sex for a specific period of time due to some other thing like grief or trauma or upset or pain and feeling guilty and all this lot. That's not asexuality. I've had guys before now that I met a long time ago on dating sites, and they're like, oh, I haven't had sex for like 8 months. I'm asexual too. I'm like, no, you're not. Asexuality is not the fact you've not had sex for 8 months for whatever reason. Someone like, oh, I haven't had a girlfriend or boyfriend for like 2 years, so I'm asexual. I'm like, that's not asexuality. Oh, me and my partners don't have sex, so I'm having an asexual relationship. I'm like, you're not asexual just because you haven't had sex with your partner. This is not asexuality, people. This is just you not having sex. So please stop portraying asexuality as something it's not. There's no wonder there's a lot of people that don't understand asexuality when you got it portrayed incorrectly in movies. And people think it's just like you're not having sex because you're either frigid or you're a virgin or you're abstaining, you're in celibacy, you have no partner, you haven't dated in years, you've got a dead partner, so you haven't had sex. You haven't had sex for whatever reason for multiple years or months. That's not asexuality. So just like heterosexual, bisexual, pansexual, homosexual are sexual orientations, asexuality is also a sexual orientation. And to put someone in a movie that's grieving for their husband and say, I'm completely asexual because they're not having sex, conflates and confuses people, conflates the idea of asexuality being directly as a result of the fact that someone's not having sex for whatever reason for a number of years, because in this case they're grieving for their dead husband. And by conflating asexuality with the idea that, oh, someone hasn't had sex for a while and they don't want it, that's asexuality, is not. Conflating these things is really bad. It's bad representation for asexuality. It's bad for people to understand asexuality because they're not going to. They're just going to be like, oh, so I'm not having sex for a few years, like, because I just don't feel like it, or I'm still upset over my partner and me splitting up, so I'm not having sex, so I'm asexual. You're not asexual. It's not asexuality. Asexuality is not the same as having trauma or grief that's stopping you having sex. It's a genuine sexual orientation. I hope I've made that really clear. But I do think it's worth going and watching the movie. I did like the way Bridget was in the movie. I thought it was a very interesting movie from an asexual point of view. It's infuriating, the movie, because it's not what asexuality is about. And I wish they hadn't mentioned asexuality in the movie. However, I do like the fact that a big movie like Bridget Jones, because obviously it's a series which I haven't seen the rest of the series, I do like the fact they've mentioned asexuality. So it's like it does exist. But the fact that they've mentioned it and it be completely wrong in the context is not a good thing. Asexuality is not about someone who is abstaining from sex because they have lost their partner. It's not asexuality. So please understand what asexuality is. And I think, like I said, it's bittersweet really, because I'm glad a major movie like that has actually mentioned asexuality, but I'm really disappointed that they didn't explain at all what asexuality is about. And people are left thinking now that, oh, if you're grieving for your dead partner and you haven't had sex for a few years, you're asexual because you don't feel like having sex with anyone else. That's basically what it was. And that is not what asexuality is or about. So I hope to God there's more movies in the future that's huge that actually shows asexual characters. I'd really like that. I'd love it if they showed asexuality and maybe a different type of asexual on the spectrum in multiple ways throughout the movie. I'd like to see a movie where you've got a grey asexual, a pure asexual, you know, people on the different asexual spectrum. I'd love to see that. Someone who's romantic, someone who's non-romantic. I'd love to see these characters, you know, in mainstream movies and actually proper representation, not some silly idea where people think, oh, because I haven't had sex for a number of years, I'm asexual. I don't have sex, so I'm asexual. That's not the same as asexuality. Some asexuals do actually have sex. So it's not true that not every asexual doesn't have sex. A lot don't, because they're not experiencing sexual attraction, or they've got such a lack of it. They're not bothered about it. And those people, you know, need proper representation. We need representation in mainstream media, proper representation, not this stupid notion that, oh, I haven't had sex because I'm upset that I've lost my partner. I'm not saying that's not tragic and it's not something that someone would do. Of course, some people don't have sex with anyone for years, or they never have sex again because they don't get another partner after their partner's passed away. But at the end of the day, that's not asexuality. Asexuality is not the same as someone grieving for their dead partner, and so therefore they're just not having sex with anyone because they won't allow themselves to have a relationship with anyone ever again. That's not asexuality. It's completely conflating the two. It really, really makes people think that it's abstaining and that it's born of some sort of trauma and some inadequacy where the person's like lacking in something, like they're lacking in actual enthusiasm for getting into a relationship with someone else. They're lacking the intent to be with anyone else. That's not the same as asexuality. So I hope this changes in the future. But I am glad that a major movie actually used the word in terms of, oh, clearly we do exist because they use the word. But when they use it in a completely different context, out of context of what asexuality actually means, and they've just abstained from sex because they're grieving, that's not what asexuality is. And that is really bad for asexuality. So anyway, I've said what I've said. What do you think? Have you seen the movie yet? And if so, I'd love to hear your comments, queries, questions down below. If you have been in chat tonight, thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat tonight because of a YouTube error, but I love you all dearly. If you have been posting in the chat, post below your comments after this video has been processed, because I'm going to obviously leave it up on my channel, and let me know what you think. Love to hear from you. So take care. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, grab a copy of Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Asexual Life. This is my real life behind the scenes story. And also Asexual Perspectives, but 47 asexual stories on Amazon. These are in the description of my channel as well. Go and grab a copy of these. And I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Lots of love. Take care. Thanks for tuning in. Bye. See you soon.